The last of the major pro sports leagues is off and rolling, and college basketball is ready to go as well. BetOnline remains your top spot for all your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, and NHL are in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions. All the hoops betting action, along with every sport available at your fingertips, with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and remember to use our promo code Bleav for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Again, that's promo code BLEAV for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. Bleav in the Arizona Cardinals. It is the Arizona Cardinals centric specific show where, of course, we talk about the Arizona Cardinals in the Phoenix metropolitan area. I am one of your co-hosts. I am Javon J. Love Adams, and with me, as always, is a man who played not only professional baseball, but he also played in the National Football League for that first Super Bowl-bound team for the Atlanta Falcons. I'm talking about none other than accomplished motivational speaker and author. I'm trying to get him to start working on that next book. I'm talking about Ed Easy Smith. What is good, my brother?
Hey, we made it to another Friday, brother Jay. Getting ready for a good weekend. Can't believe Thanksgiving is less than a week away, too.
Yes, indeed. You're gonna have people coming with empty arms with containers, empty hands with containers.
Tupperware, bro.
Tupperware, man. That's how it goes in the streets. So we do this thing twice a week on Mondays and Thursdays. Sometimes, for at least the foreseeable future, every other Thursday it will be going on Fridays, just for some things that I got going on in terms of grinding out there in these streets and everything. But on Mondays we reflect on the week that was, or the game that just took place, I should say, and any maybe topics that might stick with us during the week. And then on Thursday we look ahead to the upcoming opponent and give our thoughts on that. So of course this week that opponent, the Arizona Cardinals, are hitting the road. They're going to Texas to play the Houston Texans, and the Texans are 5-4, and the Arizona Cardinals are 2-8, a tale of two different teams coming in here. And so interested in talk about this. I want to say thank you, because it was on I think it was what was that Wednesday. Wednesday was bringing your co-host to a podcast day, and so I wanted to thank you for bringing your co-host. It's always fun when we were on the Texans podcast here in the Bleav network, and so it was always cool to be able to do that stuff, man. So yeah, had a great time with them.
Whatever, you my partner, man.
They saying, who is this dude over here that has these off the wall opinions and thoughts? But so speaking of that, let's get into it. So the big thing, and it happens in every sport, you try to find whatever the storyline is. I guess the longer that I'm in media, I guess I'm starting to look for storylines, but a hater like you always looks for the storyline of hate. But the storyline, of course, is Kyler Murray going back to the state of Texas, where he, of course, made his name. And the Texans are ahead of schedule. So my question to you is, can Kyler do it again? Can he keep this? Can he make it 2 games and not just a 1-game aberration as he's returning back from that knee injury?
Well, it's an interesting game. Obviously it's the second one back. He looked pretty good in the first game, and I thought he was going to be a whole lot rustier. And especially with the lack of weapons around him. But you also have to take into account the opponent we played, the Falcons. They tend to give it away, and so it was almost like a nice soft landing for him playing against a Falcons team at home, and maybe they planned it that way. Maybe he could have come back the week earlier in Cleveland, but that might have looked a whole lot different. So instead, we get him on the turf here, on the nice grass back here against Falcons, and he looked really good. Now we're heading over there to Texas, and they have a defensive-minded coach. And you and I, we did the podcast the other day, and I've done a couple others, and they're all really worried about Kyler coming back, especially because he looks so good.
All right, I'm gonna let you finish, especially because you have the insight, and this is cool. And I give you a hard time about it, but I think it's really cool that you go through that car wash of sorts where you're going through on the different podcasts, and that when on Wednesday, that was the theme is, oh man, should we scared about Kyler? No, afraid of Kyler? No, man. But continue. What are you hearing? So go ahead.
Well, he is a little bit of a legend over there. They talked about one guy did I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he talked about, it was almost like What? Like Jesus was coming down from the sky when he started talking about Kyler and his high school and college, everything he's accomplished. And, I say, yeah, he is that type of athlete. But, he is coming off injury and he is coming over with the rest of the Cardinals team. That's what I almost wonder, like, hey, you guys realize, Kyler's coming and the rest of those dudes, right? It's not like, the number one Oklahoma Sooners are heading over to play, the Sisters of the Poor and Prideful, So,
Right.
You have your team. Obviously, you're their head coach and defensive staff, they're, going to look to stop Murray. If you stop Murray, what else do you have to do? Because this team is very limited in what we bring to the table. And like I said, Kyler could go over there and cause them some issues, but once again, I bring up the fact that who's he throwing the ball to? We got Connor behind him. If you stop the run, then what do we do? Obviously you have the biggest pain for teams that face Murray right now are corralling him. That speed,
Right.
that little that turbo button that he has, that's different than a lot of other players, and we saw that the other day where
we did see that. I didn't think we were going to be able to see that speed and that amount of elusiveness that we saw on display last Sunday.
And when he escapes, your job is to then corral him. But if you don't, he's going to be throwing the ball down the field. I think the run part of the game, meaning how heavy are the Cardinals going to lean on him? I think the attack would be once we get down in the red zone near the goal line, that's when his running really can affect the the defense. I don't know if the Cardinals necessarily want him running too much out in space in the field, and I don't think they'll definitely have any design runs for him because you're trying to protect the product, and you also have to realize he's coming off of that knee. As good as he looked the other day, he is still coming off a knee, and they're probably going to be be very cautious, and they'll probably keep him in the pocket as much as possible, roll him out as much as possible. But those designed runs, the biggest thing for Murray, with Murray, I should say, is when plays break down, he can extend them. How much do they want him running around is the key. So he could do it again. To answer your question, Jay, he could do it again. I expect a very heavy dose of trying to contain him, meaning, the method that I talked about, defensive ends, make sure you contain as you're going upfield, pressure into his lap, and then see what he can do, So it's going to be an interesting game plan as far as what the Cardinals are willing to do, how much they want to expose Murray this time around, and what the Texans throw at him. So I think we got a really good game ahead of us, a whole lot more interesting than we would have ever thought. And I know we'll probably talk about it, but there are some draft ramifications that come with this game as well. We lose this game to Texans, and our pick just continues to rise up the ladder right now, currently sitting at 20th with that Houston pick, a pick that we all thought would be in the top 5 at the beginning of the season.
Yes, we did. Now, Bleav in the Arizona Cardinals. So I want to get into this though. So if let's say you have 2 quarterbacks. We have 3, but Clayton Tune, we won't really count that. But let's say you have a Honda Accord or you have a Lamborghini. Your mentality is that you want to drive fast all the time. So your backup quarterback was Joshua Dobbs, and so you wanted to, which was the Honda Accord. So you wanted to just rip and run with it, but you were limited by just the way in which that vehicle was made, right? And then you have Kyler coming back. Now, he might be off of a new fresh tune-up or maybe getting some new brakes or whatever, but the Lamborghini is back and your mentality to go fast. Now, how much do you restrain yourself? And so what I'm saying all that to say is when it comes to Petzing and maybe what his true philosophy will it be difficult for him? Maybe he's wanted to be more aggressive this whole time, and now he has the opportunity to do so, which maybe leads to some of the Houston Texan fans being a little bit scared because they don't know if he's going to be able to really take that Lamborghini on the road and really make it go fast the way it was intended.
Well, to extend your analogy, you do have that nice shiny car, but what surface are you driving it on, Jay? I mean, if you, if and I've been there before. I remember one year I was playing, and the year I played in the XFL we had one of our practice fields was near a racetrack, one of those little ovals. And every
Yeah.
now and then they would open it up for us and we could take our cars on there. And, and I had I'm always a SUV dude. So it wasn't like I could get on there and drive that thing really hard and fast. I got an SUV. Some of the other guys with these other cars, they got on there, and every now and then they would get a little, pace to themselves. Right. But when I did feel like when I was on that oval, it was designed for speed, so I, put my foot on the pedal a little bit.
Yeah.
Now, in this situation, Petting and Gannon, they get Murray back, but he's still on that bum knee, right? It's almost like taking that same fast car out on a bumpy track where there's rocks and stuff like that. You don't know where the landmines are. So what you want to do, you want to pace it a little bit. You're not going to get out there and rev it around. And that's kind of like what you're doing with Murray. You don't want the full experience. I don't think you want to unleash the full experience unless, if he's coming to you and obviously they know how healthy he is and feels. And, I remember coming off my knee injury the first time, it was kind of like, they every day they were asking me how I was feeling. And, I would lie to them, but I knew how I felt. I was like, I'm ready because I wanted to get back and stay in the lineup,
Yeah.
I was like, it's okay. I'm good, knowing that. But, I wonder if my trainers actually knew, because I was honest with some. I was like, look, just make sure you put that brace on real tight,
Okay.
So, with Murray in his knee, maybe he's being truthful to the staff, hey, Kyler, give us a number. Where you at? Are you 100? No, I'm not 100. I'm 85, but I'm good. So if they know the true report, you don't want to get out there and run that thing like it's at 100. Right. And I know he's a commodity right now because we don't know their full extent of, is he the guy moving forward, or are they shopping him, or they really do just want to take a look and see what it looks like. And hey, yeah, he could be our franchise guy. So let's make sure we don't damage these goods. So I think, they'll take it easy on the runs. They'll tell Murray, like, these are the design plays.
Mm-hmm.
If you have to escape, but we're not going to be running like 10 plays designed for you to keep. We're going to try to keep the read options to a minimal, and we'll do it, strategically. We get closer to the red zone. We know, they're probably not looking for you to run because you haven't to this point. Like the one last week that he took them totally by surprise and ran that in for the touchdown, because I don't even think they were ready for him to be fully operational. And they were like, well, they're probably going to, not run him so much. And boom, there they did. So I think, I don't know if they necessarily want to unleash the full package because he might not be there totally. And like I said, they want to protect him from himself probably a little bit as well.
All right, so let's get into this. We'll Bleav in the Arizona Cardinals. You mentioned this earlier. We got it in the run sheet. I pose it as the Texans are ahead of schedule. How did the Texans build their team? Where did the Texans do a better job than the Cardinals? But let's go this way. This game has ramifications because the Cardinals made that trade with the Texans to be able to so that the Texans could draft. What was it? Not CJ Stroud, but so that they could draft their defensive lineman. Mm-hmm. And so we thought Texans are going to be bad. Things are going to be bad. So the Cardinals, we know that they intend to be bad. So the Cardinals are going to control the draft. That's not the case and the reason I kept looking down, I was trying to look at the draft position for the as it stands right now, and I get to a certain point and it stops giving me the picks. So 10 and 11. Let's see.
That Texans pick is currently at 20.
Okay, that's the reason why. So think about that. You went from controlling the draft. You went from controlling the draft to the Cardinals having right now the number 2 pick, but that if they win some games, and they could get out of that position too. So it's a tricky spot. But how do you? This is a weird situation because you typically don't see that type of turnaround where you're really starting from scratch in terms of trying to rebuild your team the way the Texans are.
Yeah, and I'll give you the update. After last week's win, we started the week at number 1, but with the Panthers loss to the Bears, they fell to number 1, but that Panthers pick goes to the Bears. Yep. With our win, we are now at 4. Our pick is at 4. We've got Giants and Patriots in front of us. And then the pick that we get from the Texans has fallen all the way. It was 15 last week. It's now at 20 because they're in the wild card spot. So we're sitting at 4
Yeah,
and
okay, my
20.
bad. Yeah, I'm think the one I'm looking at is like it didn't update correctly.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that's wild.
But I mean, it's all good. But yeah, you think about those picks, because at one point, Jay, we were projected to have pick 1 and 2 or 3 because of because we knew our pick was bad. Like I said, the Texans have run off a few games, now 5-4 in the playoff mix. You watch what happened with Cincinnati yesterday. Cincinnati's falling further off the grid. The teams that are currently,
you just never know when it comes to injuries, when it comes to you just expect, oh, this we've been good the last couple of years, we'll always be good. But that's an example of what's going on with Cincinnati. But yeah, go ahead.
Well, think about this too, Jay, real quick. Right now, currently the Texans are in the 7th spot. Out are the Bills, the Bengals, and the Chargers. They're all out right now if the playoffs started today. And we saw what happened to Cincinnati yesterday. So that pick for the Texans continues to rise. And then, like I said, we play them this week. If we lose to them, that pick will shoot up even higher. Ours will, either stay where it is, depending on what Bears, Panthers, Giants, and Patriots do, that type of thing. But I mean, we're in a predicament where initially it looked like, man, like you said, we're going to control this draft. And then what happens if we're so far out of the top spot that we can't, if their thoughts were they were going to move off Murray and get a quarterback, you're not going to be in that position unless you get some teams up there that don't need a quarterback, which we're looking at the list right now. The further we fall, teams are going to be able to say, yeah, we want this one and that one. And then their decision might be made for them as far as with Murray. They might
good point.
Because they haven't said anything other than he's our man, they wouldn't have to backtrack on anything. And they could then say, hey, he was our dude all along, that type of thing. So they've played it right. Yeah. We'll see how it all falls out, because there's a long bit of season to go. And remember my thought process. They get a look at him, 2 or 3 games, maybe 4. And then they're like, hey, we're sold. This is our guy. Let's get some Clayton Tune in there to see if we can force that pick further up. And then it'll be, well, the reason we shut down Murray is because we've seen enough, or, we're possibly looking to do something and work some magic. So there's a lot of stuff going on behind the walls that we'll never know about. But it all starts with this game on the field Sunday.
So let's get to, so I know you've kind of laid out already how the Cardinals can win, and you can revisit that if you want in a moment. But when it comes to the Texans, now one of the things, DeMeco Ryans, he's a defensive minded guy, which is interesting because with CJ Stroud, he is pushing the ball down the field, 8.3 yards per attempt, 61.6 completion percentage, 291 yards per game average, only 2 interceptions. So I would imagine it gives him more confidence if you're protecting the ball, so you're not throwing it away, but you're still 15 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. But with bringing in with 24.1 points per game for the Texans against the Cardinals, with 17.6 points per game in terms of on the offensive sides of their respective teams. It's just interesting how that goes. But what do the Texans need to do to win? Because we know what Tank Dell, the rookie, is doing a good job in terms of running the rock. They kind of split it between him and Pierce. If I saw that correctly, Pierce he didn't practice, or he was limited in practice, if I'm not mistaken. But how do you see this game playing out if the Texans are going to win?
Well, they have a new entry to their running game with Singletary as well. So
that's right.
They're and what you brought up with Stroud is so impressive. 2 interceptions going into game 10 on their schedule. That's the big thing. And that's why, and it's not dink and dunk. They're actually throwing the ball up the field. For me, they win this game. One, you can't be looking ahead. You got to be, eye on the prize. You got the Cardinals in there this week. We've known the Cardinals, they can win this game. But if they run the ball, protect the ball, and then take their shots downfield, that is the recipe. And then, like I said, Stroud, just don't, do anything silly, no interceptions, anything like that, and they can win this game. And I'm not saying handily, because we do have Murray on our side now, but I still don't think we have enough firepower. If they put up 24 points or so, their norm, it's going to be a stretch for us. As much as, we love having Murray back, who is he throwing the ball to? Yeah, we obviously have Connor behind him. He's our bell cow. But
Mm-hmm.
like I said, we don't have the offensive line, the weapons on the outside, in my opinion, and then defensively, well, we
Trey
got
McBride,
McBride, yeah,
Trey.
but I mean, he is a nice weapon, new weapon now. It'll be interesting, how we fare in this game. But for Houston, just protect the ball, run the ball, and like I said, Stroud should be able to get off. On the other side with us, our defense, we've got to get after their run game for one. If we allow them to run the ball and give them play action and stuff like that, we won't stand a chance in this game. And I do, like I said, I don't know how much they want to unleash Murray in game 2. And like I said, you got to remember he's going to be playing against a pretty stout, or at least up and coming defense with these Texans, and compared to what he faced last week against the Falcons. So interesting game. I do think though that the Texans, like I said, they handle this one, and like I said, up and coming, man. Who would have thought, they would be in the playoff mix, with Holden. Yeah, it's just crazy.
And when you look at the ages of on the team there, like some 24s, 26, 27. So it's not as if they tried to build this, what we talk about, where we get the Carolina Panthers, where we're going to get a lot of old heads in here and see what we can do. But no, I want to grow. You want your quarterback to grow with these players and not have them fall off along the way just from attrition, from them retiring and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But so if we're looking at this, so again, for the Cardinals, and again, I think the Cardinals, if we're looking at how the Cardinals can win, they need to be prepared to be tested when it comes to their cornerback, the defensive back position, because Stroud will throw the ball down the field, and so you have to be ready for it, and so you have to, in addition to trying to keep your eye on the run as well. So they might be able to try to mix it up that way. So if the Cardinals can avoid giving up the big play in the passing game, I think they might be able to stick with this. And the Cardinals, I think, are just want to try to control the game with the ground game and try to do. But again, I'm not sure how well that's going to work. Again, if he's not under center, not 50% of the time, not that, it would be ridiculous based upon what the restrictions that he has based upon his height. So, but a little bit more than last week. Let's see, can we do it a little bit more and see how that can help to define the game a bit.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to find out how they want to use him. And they're still, he is auditioning, in my opinion, to see what type of fit he is. And if they want to put him under center more and he's not comfortable with it, that's going to be a big red flag for them. But I would expect them to do that more, get him under center and kind of go from there.
All right. So who wins this game? Who do you win? Let's get that pick.
Yeah, I got Texans in this game. I think we'll go over and give them a fight because we have not given up in any of these matchups so far. I just think they're well coached for one. I do think they have some talent, and as you mentioned, they're ahead of schedule. But I see this game somewhere in like the 27 to 21 range, something like that. I do think we'll get some scoring in there, but I just don't think we have enough offensively to compete with them and defensively to stop them, in my opinion. Like I said, we don't have a whole lot up front, and then if they can get the running game established and expose our secondary, I think they can take advantage of that as well.
I think it's interesting because the line is Texans -5, which is interesting because that makes you think that could it be one of those trap games where they don't take it as serious as they should. But I think the Texans will win. I think it'll probably be slightly more high scoring. I think it'll probably be 31-23 is what I would think that it might come down to. So
I think their trap game came when they lost against the Panthers too.
Yeah.
That was their. So that's one of those early lessons for them. And as a young team, I'm sure they're harping on this, the head coaching staff. So I think they'll have their eyes open for this one with the Cardinals coming in, especially with Murray being behind the wheel.
All right, so we are Bleav in the Arizona Cardinals. Of course, we are presented by Bet Online. Tell a friend about what we have going on here. We do this Monday and Thursday. So yeah, we have fun doing it. We hope you do as well. You can listen, of course, go to Bleav.com. You can go however you got here, any of your streaming platforms, and also on the SiriusXM app. And the Bleav family continues to grow in terms of the footprint that we have, and we are proud and happy to be a part of the Bleav family. And so on behalf of Ed Smith, I am Javon Adams, and as we always say around this time, you can